Hello, everyone. Welcome to the I Will Aim podcast. Our topic for today is Don't Let Your Past Hold You Back with Scott Stewart. Despite growing up in a home that was less than supportive, Scott has pushed to grow and overcome some major life changing as a young adult. Of those, forgiving his father for murder was the most significant. Today, Scott shared his message of overcoming and forgiving those who have hurt us. As a professional speaker, coach, and encourager, his message is simple but not easy. Anything is forgivable and overcomable if we hold a healthy and accurate belief about what those two things are. He lives in the Pacific Northwest and has been married to his wife Deborah for 24 years. He had two daughters and two German Shepherd or love mixed fur babies. Scott, thank you for being on the show today. Welcome.
You bet. Thanks, Will. Thanks for having me.
Looking forward to have this conversation.
Yeah.
First, let's start with the first question. Can you share your personal story and the specific trauma that you experienced?
Yeah. So I'm gonna go back to the age of just in when I was in high school, real quick, and we'll just do an overview. But in today's world, Will, we there's this thing that's quite common and quite talked about called ADD or ADHD. But back in the '70s, early '80s in small town America, nobody knew what that was. And there wasn't enough awareness to it. Well, yours truly, that was me. And so I struggled. And when I say struggled, I really, really struggled all the way through middle school and high school. Failed most every test I ever took. Could not retain information. And to make matters worse, my dad, he thought the way to help me learn was to punish me more, take away more things, and just be harder on me. And that was his style, right? Well, we know that doesn't work. And I barely graduated high school, and I couldn't imagine myself going on because of all of the struggle and the failures I'd had in school. And in addition to that, my father was not a stellar role model. I'm going to say it that way. He had a lot of anger issues. He could go from zero to extremely anger in a matter of one, two, three. And so I lived in fear. I grew up in fear, and I watched my dad's anger and it get worse as the years went on. And it got to the point where I couldn't be around him. He just snap and become just not mad, but I mean all out, like, holy crap, dude, you're gonna lose it. Well, on August 5th of 1991, that was a Monday night. Well, I had dinner with my folks. At that point, I didn't live with them anymore, and I had dinner with them, and it was a normal night. My dad's anger seemed to be under control, and I got ready to leave the house, my parents' house, and I walked to the front door. My mom followed me, and she, as I was walking through the door, like any good mother would say, turn around here, come here, you give me a kiss, give me a hug. And I did that. I kissed her on the cheek and I said, I love you. And what I didn't know was that was going to be the last time I'd ever see her again. And several hours after that, closer to even midnight, in a fit of rage, my dad, he lost it. Without being too graphic here for your listeners, but he went into the garage and he found a stainless steel bar that was probably, I think they'd figured it at close to 36 inches, 34 inches long. And while my mom laid in her bed, he made sure she never got up again. And it was a very brutal, murder, if you will. And to speed the story along a little bit here, he went to jail and then confessed and then tried to blame me for it. In fact, I went and saw him a couple weeks later. I went and saw him in jail, and I looked him right in the eyes, looked like just, how you and I are looking at each other, and went through that glass, when they're in incarceration. And he looked me right in the eye with those very manipulative, dark, evil eyes that I had grown up with. And he looked at me, he said, do you think I killed your mom? And I said, I don't know to think. I'm numb. I just can't believe any of this is happening. I want this to be a bad dream. And he looked me right in the eye, Will, and he said, "Well, I didn't, but I told the police I did to cover up for you because I thought you did it."
Ooh.
Yeah, true story. God is my witness. And as you can imagine, if losing my mom already wasn't enough, that was another ton of bricks, right? And so that's when we talk about those past traumas, those past things that happened to us that nobody ever asked for, nobody ever wanted, nobody ever signed up for. That in a 5 minute nutshell, well, that was my and it life was forever changed, as you might imagine.
Thank you for sharing that story. I think it's really heartbreaking, and in many ways, I want to thank you for having this courage to share that message with a lot of people, because not often do people want to open up, right? I think it's really hard to do that. So, I really want to thank you for that. Let's go to the next question. How
Yeah.
did your trauma shape your perspective on life and influencing your career in public speaking?
Well, I was a young enough man, Will, when all of this happened, that there was a piece of me that just knew that I knew that I knew that if I didn't deal with all of this, if I didn't heal from it and deal with it and get past it, it was going to screw up the rest of my entire life. And I was a young man. I was in my early 20s. And if there was ever a defining moment of what set me on the course to get over this and to deal with it, it was that I didn't want the rest of my life to be smothered and covered in trauma and bitterness and hate and anger and resentment. All of those things that we would feel. And so, about the age of 25, 26, I had just the right time, just the right person came to me and said, you can't keep living like this. Because at that point, I'd
Mhm.
kind of self-medicated, if you will, just to get through life. Um, and they came to me and said, you can't keep doing this, right? You're headed down a really dark road. And I knew he was right. And so that was the turn that started. I went to some counseling, quite a bit of counseling, therapy. I immersed myself into self-development, and I started realizing that there's a lot of other people that have been through some things that are even far more horrible than mine. And I went and I through that self-development, especially, I think, Will, to answer your question, was the key that said, I don't have to be a victim to this. I i can pick myself up. It's okay to feel angry. It's okay to feel hurt, but it's my responsibility. All of this crap that happened to me was not of my own doing,
Yeah.
but it now was my responsibility to deal with. And I think in life, Will, I think a lot of people lose that perspective. You may have not asked for it. May have not asked for the spouse who cheated on you, who up and left you. You may have not asked for the business partner who stole all the money from you and walked away. All of these horrible, horrible things. But you do have a responsibility to pick up the pieces of your life and move forward. And self-development taught that to me. And as I continued to grow in self-development, I realized, holy cow, there's a lot of hurting people in the world that are holding on to the anger, the bitterness, because I did for a few years. And I thought they need to hear about forgiveness. And that really was the gateway for me to move in to be as a speaker and encourage people with that message of, look, you, if you hold the right belief about forgiveness, you really can forgive the most evil, horrific things if you hold the right belief about it. And I was able to grasp the right belief about what forgiveness is. So that long answer to your question, but
Thank you for sharing the fact that you might not have a choice on what happened to you, but you have the responsibility to change how things move forward. It's like the saying that you don't have a choice of how you come to this world, but what you do after the fact, it's your choice, right? I
Yeah.
think so. That means if we were born poor, you don't have to be poor forever. You can change your
Right.
mindset and
Right.
take ownership of that. And I love the point that you talk about. I know it's really hard, but it's really also relevant that you can't be always be the victim of it. And I like that the fact that you're talking about it here on this particular episode, because really would resonate with a lot of people going through the same challenges. Thank you for doing that.
Yeah. You
The
bet.
next question I have is, what strategies or technique did you find more effective in overcoming, challenge?
You know, a lot of, well, I'm going to say it this way. We all, every one of us, we have those, we're human. We have those feelings of anger. We have those feelings of sadness. We have those
Mm,
feelings of betrayal, of bitterness. I'm going to go on to say jealousy, sadness,
yeah.
remorse, regret. I mean, all of these things, we all have those. And should never should anybody ever tell us, oh, you shouldn't feel like that. It's like, no, 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 hold on, time out. You're allowed to feel like that. Here's the piece. It is also our responsibility to manage those emotions. That's the responsibility piece. Feel how you want to feel. Be angry, go outside, yell, scream, swear, take a baseball bat, beat on a tree or something. We're allowed to feel like that, but you have to manage those feelings and not let them destroy your life. And I think one of the heartbeat for me was getting past all this was I truly did not want to carry that anger for my dad. I didn't want to carry it with me the rest of my life. You know, he was not a good role model. I mentioned that a few minutes ago. And he taught me a lot of things. Will, I'm not going to sit here and say, you know, he was Satan in disguise, but he taught me a lot of things. And he taught me how to work with my hands. He taught me how to build things, how to work on things, how to build a house, work on cars, those kinds of things. But one of the best things he taught me was the kind of man I didn't want to be. And for me, I knew that I had to break that cycle, right? I had to break that cycle. I had to forgive. I didn't want my two beautiful daughters to grow up with a dad who was an a-hole, who was angry, who yelled at them, who manipulated them, who lived in fear of their dad. I did not want that. And I not only did I not want that, I wanted them to grow up with so bad in a healthy family that I made it my responsibility to set out to better myself, to overcome that. And the big piece of that was to forgive.
Oh,
Um, yeah,
what an amazing, decision you made, and that, and then the outcome that it had for your daughter. They definitely live a different life than what you went through. So thank you for
yes, they
being a
do.
great role model.
Yeah.
Can you talk more about the importance of resilience and how you cultivate it in your life? Because that's really one of the that I felt like one of the key elements for people to really persevere.
Yeah. Interesting. I never used to, years ago, I never used to really relate with resilience. I would hear that word and I'd be like, what? What the hell? What resilience? You know? But what I didn't realize was, for me, resilience, what that meant was understanding that I may feel completely, totally defeated today. I may feel like I totally just missed the mark. I made all the wrong mistakes. I yelled at somebody. I got mad. But you know what? Tomorrow is a new day. And of all the seasons of life that I've been through, Will, that you've been through, that your listeners have been through, every season, none of those seasons last forever. Not one of them. Not one of them. Even the joy, even the happiness,
Yeah,
right? We go
yeah.
through those seasons. And the resilience piece for me comes in to understand that tomorrow's a new day. And just because it feels completely effed up today, and I feel like I'm carrying the weight of the world on my shoulders, doesn't mean it's going to be that way tomorrow. And that's how I kept putting one foot in front of the other.
Well, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
My next question is, what advice would you give someone who's currently struggling with the aftermath of a traumatic trauma? What advice
Yeah.
can you give them?
You know, I I sought out help. Um, and for me, that was in the form of a counselor or a therapist. And now understand something. I wanted to do that.
Mm.
And I believe that's one of the key pieces in life in general.
Yeah.
Will is if you want to do something, I think you have to really want to. Not to say it's like, oh, that'd be nice. Oh yeah, one of these days I'm going to get a counselor. Oh, one of these days I'm going to get a coach. Oh, one of these days, next week I'll start on it. No, 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 no. I really wanted to, and I wanted to so bad that I made it a priority. And so, sometimes counseling therapy is looked frowned on, especially us by us men sometimes, right? Because
Yeah.
we're supposed to be the tough
Macho.
guys. Yeah, yeah, the macho guys. And buddy, I'll tell you, I was like, I can't get past this without help. And my encouragement for folks is seek out somebody who can help you, not somebody who will enable you. That's a
Mm.
key. There's a lot of enablers in the world. Find somebody who will help you, who you can trust in, someone that you can confide in that will help you to get to the next step. That was really the thing that made all the difference for me.
So I want to ask a follow up question because you mentioned that you decided you want to do it. But if someone isn't willing to do that, how might you approach that conversation with that person?
Wow, that's a good question. So I'm gonna go light on this. I have
Okay.
family that never dealt with the story that I'm sharing with you, or if they did deal with it, they didn't really deal with it deep, right?
Mm.
They dealt with it on the surface level, and their happiness, their attitude, their outlook on life is a, reflects it. And my question is, are you living the kind of life you really want to? Trauma holds on to us in ways that I think even the experts may not fully understand. I think they got a really good handle on it, but trauma, it lives in our subconscious, and
Yes.
oh my gosh, it's almost like it's the ghost passenger who steers the ship, but we can't see it, you
Yep.
know. I think I think someone has to at least look in the mirror and go, are all of these things, am I a victim in life? Are all of these things that keep happening to me, or is there something I can do about this? But I still come back to that piece of, there has to be an element of you that says, I know it's uncomfortable, but I am open to exploring at least how to look at this, how to fix this, how I might start the process, and take the small step. You don't have to jump in with both feet. Take the small step, one step, then take another small step. But you got to start. You got to start at some place.
Well, thank you for sharing that, especially the concept of taking, that one small step, one foot in front, right? Just get you going slowly until you get there.
Yeah.
I think for folks that are going through this traumatic situation, how might their friends and family support them? Because sometimes that is a challenge, right? Like someone's going through something, but you don't know what to say, and also I think more importantly, you don't want to say something wrong. So how might
Mm.
your friends and family who knows that you're going through this is able to support you during these challenging times?
I think a big piece is become a listener. Become a listener, right? God gave us two of these, one of those, right?
Yep.
We've heard that saying 100 times. Become a listener. And what do I mean by that? Don't, if someone needs to vent, if someone needs to share, if someone needs to cry, if someone needs to just express, authentically listen to them. Don't butt in with your own thoughts, your own words, your own ideas. Listen to them. I think sometimes people, if they really truly will, if they just feel like they're heard, genuinely heard, and you give them your true attention, my gosh, that that act right there, if people knows, like, hey, my best friend, my sister, my whatever, they're really listening to me right now, there's some healing in that. There really is. So I think that's one small step that people can take. The problem is most people listen with the intent to reply,
Yes.
and I'm telling you, shut that off. There's no need to reply. There's not. Just listen.
Well,
that's probably my best advice on that.
Well, thank you very much. I think that that particular advice is so powerful because that's like you said, we're born with two ears and one mouth. So I think practicing that gives the person a sense of support because like
Right.
one of the things that I remember from one of my guests before is people want to be seen and heard, and I think that's a very powerful action of giving your time and listening. Thank you for highlighting that.
You bet.
Can you share with my audience what are the projects you're working on? If they want to reach out to you, how do they reach out to you and engage you in any conversation, or maybe invite you to speak at their event?
Yeah, sure. You bet. I'm active on, and I think I sent you the links over, but I'm pretty active. I have a personal Facebook page and then I have a professional. I would just ask the folks that if you send me a friend request on my personal, I probably won't respond. Don't take it personal. I've had some people that I've accepted and then they went crazy on me, so I just don't do that anymore. But my professional page, Scott Stewart, author, speaker, encourager,
Mm.
please look that up. Just give me a follow. I try to post in there anywhere from 1 to 3 times a week. Sometimes I fall short. And then you can find me on LinkedIn as well. I'm on LinkedIn again, probably 1 to 3 times a week. Um, if you want to, if you've got a question, or maybe if you're in the middle of something, you're stuck, you're trying to figure out how do I forgive this person? They really, really wounded me, or what's my next step? You can shoot me an email. I'm totally, Scott Stewart speaking at gmail.com. I try to get back to all my emails. Some days they come in a lot, other days it's a little light.
Mhm.
But again, Scott Stewart speaking at gmail.com. I'm happy to lend an ear or help folks out. I do offer coaching, and I'm not selling that here, but as at least just to lend an ear and maybe help your listeners to just know that there are other people that have been through some horrible stuff. And if forgiveness, if you're struggling with that, I'd love to help you however I can do that or support you.
Th- Thank you for sharing that. I'll post that on my episode when I release it. Want to thank you, Scott, for your time today. Thank you for sharing your gift to my audience, and really appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
Great. Thanks for having me, Will. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.